A work system snapshot is a highly summarized but balanced view of a work system that a business professional can produce quickly or can understand quickly when it is presented. What does such a highly summarized but balanced view of a work system look like? Well, here's a template. You have the 6 key elements: customers, products and services, major activities and processes, participants, information and technologies, which forms the core of the work system. Remember, it's surrounded by the environment, strategies and infrastructure. And if you are able to depict these 6 elements on one slide, then you have a very tight, very crisp overview on the work system, which makes it easy for others to understand it quickly so that you have a shared understanding. Seldom you engage in work system analysis or work system design, work system transformation as a single person. Typically, this will be project teams, cross-functional, interdisciplinary project teams. And the more diverse the project team is, the more important it is to have the same understanding of what are the system boundaries, what are the core elements of the system, and what do we try to achieve here. That's why you try to summarize it in this one-page template. Obviously, there's a lot more detail to any reasonable work system, but you can describe that elsewhere. For each of the processes and activities, you can go deeper. You can draw process diagrams, for example. For the participants, you can describe them in more details with their roles, responsibilities, and so on. But the idea of the work system snapshot is really to have this quick overview on one page. Let's have a look at one example. For this specific work system exemplified here, based on the work of Stephen Alter, the customers are the hiring manager, so we are talking about an HR work system. We talk also about the customer, the larger organization, which will then employ the new hire, which is therefore highly interested in who is hired in this work system. And then you have the HR manager, HR obviously being the abbreviation of human resources, who will analyze the nature of the applications for developing long-term recruiting strategies, while the hiring manager is in the operational process of the individual hiring decision. The products and/or services provided by this HR work system are application, which may be used for subsequent analysis by the HR manager, job offers, rejection letters, and hiring of an applicant. The major activities and processes are the 12 listed here. For example, it typically starts with the hiring manager submitting a request for a new hire on existing budget. The staffing coordinator defines the parameters of the new position. The staffing coordinator publicizes the position. Applicants submit their job application, and so on. You try to list these in sequence if possible, but it's not always possible because not always there is a sequence. There might be parallel streams, there might be independent activities or the like. The participants in this work system are not that surprising because with the major activities and processes, you always try to formulate them in a way that they include the participant. So the hiring manager submits, the staffing coordinator defines, and so on. So the hiring manager is the staffing coordinator, but also the applicant submitting her or his job application are participants in the work system. The information used in this work system are job requisitions, job description, advertisement, job applications, cover letters, and so on. And obviously, if you saw in the products and services that rejection letters are one of the products produced in the work system, then rejection letters are one piece of information in this work system. And the technologies to be used in this to-be work system, which we describe here, are, for example, a new human resources portal, which is being built to support this work system, but also standard work processes, telephones, and emails, and the like. As you see here, for each of the bullet points, one can go in further detail, and one needs to go in further detail for really fully understanding the work system. But on this one page, you get a rough overview on what's included. You see especially which processes are included, which are embedded in the larger organization, and where the scope of this work system ends, why you perform all the work, because you see the products, services, and customers of these, and the like. So a quick overview of a work system. Now, for modeling such a work system, there's some consistency guidelines and a description what to look out for. If you think about the customers, then this should be the people who make most direct use of the products and services. In some cases, it's also useful to include non-customer stakeholders who have a direct and perceptible stake in the products and services produced. We call the HR example where we had the larger organization as customer, not as direct customer, but as indirect customer. But usually top managers and stockholders should not be mentioned because their stakes are extremely indirect. And if you always take the shareholders, stockholders, the entire world, the global community into account, well, that's way too indirect and you don't have a narrow definition of the scope of your work system anymore. And customers may also be participants. Example are self-service work systems whose participants make direct use of the products and services of the work system. As a consistency guideline in light blue here, each customer should receive and use at least one of the products or services mentioned. If they don't use the products and services, either they are not customers or the definition of products and services is not well thought through yet. Considering the product and services, the products and or services produced by activities and process steps listed. Meaning, for each of the products or services, you need to identify at least one major activity or process delivering this product or services. These products and services are typically not the end products of the firm unless the work system itself produces these end products. So for some work systems within a company, it will be the company's end products. But consider the HR example again. This is not the end product the firm sells, but it's the product and the service provided by the HR work system. So each product and service should be the output of at least one activity or process step. I already mentioned that. And each product or service should be received and used by at least one customer group. These are again the consistency guidelines for checking whether your model of a work system is reasonable. Considering the major activities and processes, these are the ones through which the work system produces its products and services. The list is more understandable if activities or processes are listed in sequential orders. I already mentioned that in the HR examples, but this is not always possible. And to make it understandable, to make it easy to grasp, you should typically try to have no more than 10 steps, 10 major activities or processes, which you can then describe in detail elsewhere. As you saw in the HR example, well, there were 12. The 10 is no hard rule, but a general rule of thumb. If you only have one major activity and process, that might be under-complex, but potentially in a very simple work system, that might be the case. But if it's an excessive number, 20, 30, 40 major activities, processes, then you're probably not at the right level of abstraction yet. And each step should be a complete sentence identifying a relevant role and a step or activity performed by someone in that role. For example, the credit analyst prepares a loan write-up, or the loan office negotiates loan terms, or so on. And you've seen many of these examples in the HR example. Participants are the people who perform the work. People, not technological agents. If it would be automated systems, that's in the technology box. So participants are the people who perform the work. And each participant should be involved in at least one activity or process. Considering the information, it's the information that is used to produce the products and services of the work system. There you should use phrases such as the employee database or details of project schedules. And each item in this information box should be used or produced by at least one activity or step listed under work practices. So should be used or produced, either of the two, or it might be both. And finally, to close it off with the technologies, these are the technologies used to perform the work. The differentiation between the work system technologies and the technological infrastructure, if you think about this triangular model, and in the gray shaded area around it, there we have the infrastructure. So the differentiation between work system technologies and technological infrastructure is typically not that important. It's a little bit arbitrary where you put something. Each technology should be used in at least one activity or step listed under work practices. So finally, some quality criteria and typical problems when preparing work system snapshots. Characteristics of a good work system are that it describes a relevant work system. That means the smallest work system that has a problem or opportunity that is being analyzed. You start modeling a work system because you either see a problem with a work system which you try to alleviate, or you see an opportunity which you try to capture. And then make it as narrow as possible around that. That will already be complex enough. If you become too broad, then analysis and change is too difficult. So define the smallest work system possible for capturing the problem or opportunity. And the boundaries of the work system are not known in advance. You need to find that out during modeling and in the work system life cycle when you think about initiation, development, implementation, operation, and maintenance. Then you might redefine the boundaries of your work system once you really understand what the problem or opportunity are and what the interdependencies of different elements of the work system are. Nevertheless, a work system snapshot should be no more than 1 page. Consistency guidelines which I described to you on the previous slide. Typical problems you have in such a work system snapshot are describing the whole company, not just one work system. You can describe a company as a work system, but you can drill further down. And typically you'll have many different work systems in a company. And as you should model the smallest work system that has a problem or opportunity, modeling the entire company typically is a bad approach. Viewing programmers as participants in a system that uses IT is another typical problem. Viewing department managers as participants in the operational system, although they only supervise it, is another typical problem. Treating technology as a product of the system is another problem. And ignoring ways in which customers are participants is another typical problem. So try, once you have your first model, to apply the characteristics of a good work system to check whether you fall into the trap of having one of these typical problems, and thereby revise your modeling of the work system to get a good snapshot, to get a good understanding and definition of what belongs to the work system, for then continuing with your analysis.